Thousands of years ago, the land we now call was a vast wilderness of forests, rivers, frozen plains, and endless steppes. Long before powerful emperors, massive armies, and global influence, this enormous land was home to different tribes who survived by hunting, fishing, farming, and trading. At first, no one could have imagined that this harsh region would one day become the largest country on Earth. Every great nation begins somewhere, and Russia's journey began with small communities struggling to survive against nature itself. Around the 9th century, traders and warriors known as the Varangians, who came from Scandinavia, traveled through the great rivers of Eastern Europe. They traded valuable goods, built relationships with local tribes, and gradually established political control over important settlements. One of their leaders is traditionally regarded as the founder of the first ruling dynasty in the region. His successors expanded their influence until a powerful state known as emerged. Centered around the city of, this early state became an important center of trade, culture, and politics. The rivers served as highways connecting northern Europe with the merchants carried furs, honey, wax, and slaves south while returning with silk, spices, jewelry, and precious coins. Wealth flowed through the region, and towns grew larger every year. This trade transformed Kievan Rus into one of medieval Europe's most influential states. A defining moment came in 988 when accepted Eastern Orthodox Christianity. His decision permanently changed the identity of the people. Churches were built, literacy spread through religious writings, magnificent cathedrals appeared, and Byzantine traditions deeply influenced art, architecture, and government. Even today, this decision remains one of the most important turning points in Russian history. For nearly 2 centuries, Kievan Rus flourished, but internal rivalries slowly weakened it. Princes fought each other for power instead of working together. This division left the state vulnerable to an enemy unlike anything they had ever faced. In the 13th century, the armies of his descendants swept across Eurasia. Although Genghis Khan himself never conquered Kievan Rus, his grandson led devastating invasions that destroyed major cities. Entire towns were burned to the ground. Countless people lost their lives, while survivors were forced to pay tribute to the rulers of the. For nearly 250 years, the Mongols dominated much of the region. Russian princes were allowed to rule only if they remained loyal and paid taxes. This difficult period slowed development, but it also taught local rulers valuable lessons about administration, military organization, and centralized authority. Among these princes, one city slowly gained importance. At first, it was only a small settlement surrounded by forests, but its rulers were skilled diplomats. They cooperated with the Mongols while gradually increasing their own influence. Over time, Moscow became richer, stronger, and more powerful than its rivals. Everything changed under, often called Ivan the Great. During the late 15th century, he united many Russian lands under Moscow's control and finally ended Mongol dominance after the famous standoff on the Ugra River in 1480. This event is widely considered the symbolic end of Mongol rule over Russia. Ivan also strengthened the government, expanded territory, and presented Moscow as the rightful successor to the Byzantine Empire after Constantinople fell. His grandson, better known as Ivan the Terrible, became the first ruler officially crowned as Tsar of all Russia in 1547. At first, Ivan introduced reforms, modernized parts of the government, strengthened the military, and expanded Russian territory by conquering the Khanates of Kazan and Astrakhan. These victories opened the Volga River and allowed Russia to expand eastward. But Ivan's reign eventually became dominated by fear. After personal tragedies and growing suspicion, he established the Oprichnina, a policy that gave him extraordinary powers. Thousands of people were accused of betrayal. Many nobles were executed, entire communities suffered, and violence spread across the country. One of the darkest moments came when Ivan, in a fit of anger, struck his own son, who later died from his injuries. This tragic event haunted the ruler for the rest of his life. When Ivan died, Russia entered a period known as the Time of Troubles. Weak rulers, famine, political chaos, foreign invasions, and competing claims to the throne nearly destroyed the country. At one point, forces from occupied Moscow itself. Many feared Russia would disappear forever. Yet ordinary people refused to surrender. Merchants, farmers, soldiers, and religious leaders united to defend their homeland. A volunteer army led by and liberated Moscow in 1612. Their victory restored hope and paved the way for a new ruling family. In 1613, became the first ruler of the. Few could have predicted that this family would govern Russia for more than 3 centuries. They rebuilt the nation after years of destruction, strengthened institutions, expanded trade, and restored political stability. One Romanov ruler would transform Russia more dramatically than anyone before him. Unlike previous rulers, Peter believed Russia needed to learn from Western Europe. He traveled across Europe, sometimes working in shipyards under a false identity to study technology and naval engineering firsthand. He returned determined to modernize every aspect of Russian society. He reorganized the army, created a powerful navy, introduced administrative reforms, encouraged science and education, and reduced the influence of traditional institutions that resisted change. His greatest symbol of modernization was the construction of on the Baltic Sea, a magnificent city built at enormous human cost that became Russia's new capital and its window to Europe. Peter's victory in the established Russia as one of Europe's major powers. By the time he died, the country had changed dramatically from the isolated state he had inherited.